Hi, Facebook. I'm Kirk Duckwall with the Twin Cities Real Estate Show here with Danny Dietl and Chad Preby with Bell Bank Mortgage. Today, we're going to be talking about U.S. Housing market trends for buyers. We're going to jump right into the show. Anything that we can't cover, we'll cover briefly in the after show, so stick around. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Oh, yeah, if you have any questions during the show, type them in, and we'll try to hit them up either during the show or during the commercial break or in the after show for those watching live. Ready?
Oh, that was a countdown clock.
Isn't that nice?
Okay, well, let me restart that.
That's why I said the time was wrong. Okay, now it makes sense.
I get it.
Okay, let's try this again.
I'm a little intellectually dim.
There we go. You ready? Here we go.
I came to have fun.
Are you thinking about buying or selling a home, or just want to know what might be going on with one of your biggest investments? Then come hang out with us for a little while. Hi, I'm Kirk Duckwall, and welcome to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show, sponsored by Bricks Real Estate Network Title. Eric Bloomstrand and Chad Preby with Bell Bank Mortgage, and James Tolfson with Country Financial. If you have any questions for us, make sure you give us a call at 651-303-0019. Again, 651-303-0019. You can also check us out online anytime at brickstwincities.com for the latest, greatest searching and researching tools. Check out our publications page as well. You can follow us on our Facebook page. Just type in Bricks Real Estate and you'll find us there. You can watch us record live most Tuesdays right around the noon hour. Today we're going to be talking about U.S. housing trends for buyers. In studio with me today, I have Danny Dietl, the broker at Bricks Real Estate. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Kirk.
And Chad Preby with Bell Bank Mortgage. Thanks again, Chad, for being here.
Thank you.
All right. So, this is one of my favorite shows. This is our third year doing this one. These stats are provided by Zillow. They put this out typically right after their big conference out in Las Vegas with all the stats for U.S. buyers and sellers and renters in there. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to kind of run through the different stats. But today we're going to be talking about buyers and buying trends that are out there, and maybe discussing our thoughts on why some of this may be. Diving into it right away, let's kind of run through the typical buyer breakdown. So right now, the typical buyer for first-time and second-time home buyers is 43 years old. And that breaks down to a median age for first-time buyers of 34 and for repeat buyers of 54.
Wow.
So, we hear about the millennials don't buy homes, which is one of the biggest things of BS out there. I mean, that's who's buying homes for the most part. So right now, the average 43, that's actually a little older. And I want to kind of jump into this a little later, why I think that age is moving up and how that may affect the marketplace. 65% are buying with a partner or are married, and 49% of buyers have children under the age of 18 that are purchasing homes. So if we kind of break down, and so the Gen Z, the youngest generation out there buying homes, last year was only 3% of the market. That's up to 5%. Millennials actually has dropped back a little bit from 42% to 39%. And I think we're starting to maybe see some buyers that are shifting, they're older and older buyers that are making another move out there. And I think this is part of why we're seeing that age get older in the overall. I think we're not seeing as many people that are necessarily staying in the bigger home, but they may be actually downsizing into that single family rambler
Condo.
or condo, right? And they're staying in the area, which people are seeing that, and or maybe jumping to renting, selling their home or doing the RV thing or whatever it might be, that they're staying in the marketplace. I think that's part of what might be driving that older age of the median buyer out there. So income-wise, on average, 31% of buyers are making less than $50K per year. 34% of buyers are making between $50,000 and $99,000, and then 35% of buyers are making over $100K a year. I will say, I mean, as we see prices creeping up, that the income that it's taking to be able to afford a home is increasing with that.
Right.
It's becoming a little tougher, and I think we see that housing affordability index, swinging less affordable as time goes on here.
Yeah,
So
that's probably why you're seeing a little bit of a dip too in the millennial ownership rate, or for buying college debt. Prices go up.
Right. I see that a
It's
lot.
taking more money.
yeah, I mean, out of all buyers, it's what 20% of buyers have student loans out there, and 56% of all buyers have debt outside of the mortgage
Right.
itself, which I actually thought was a little low.
That feels very low.
Which is
40, almost 45% with no debt. Are car loans included in that?
yeah.
Wow.
Basically, 56% of all buyers have additional debt to their mortgage. So
When I'm looking at these income numbers, it shows me opportunity as far as the lender standpoint. There's a lot of different programs out there that offer assistance, and there's some grant opportunities out there as well that we can talk about offline.
yeah,
But this is eye opening for me to see these numbers.
yeah, it's to really break it down versus what we hear, all the feelings of what the market's doing,
Right.
versus actually looking at the raw numbers.
Can I give you one piece of information that is kind of irrelevant to all this? But you
Sure.
talk about the debt. 7 million Americans are in default on their car loans.
7 million. Wow.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That 2%, 300 million Is
of
that
the total
population?
population,
Yeah.
but of the population that can actually drive cars. 5-year-olds should not have a car loan.
Okay,
So I would
fine.
take them out of the equation.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's a significant number. Some people are looking at it. There's some more data kind of behind it, but looking at debt as a proportion to income and all those things, it is one of the more concerning numbers out there.
Gosh, you can't even buy a car for
that's
nothing's affordable, right?
Right,
As far
that's
as
part of it is
yeah.
cars. Cars aren't cheap anymore.
No, they. Gosh, I remember. When I was looking at my first car, you could buy what was it, the Neon, like $11,000, brand new.
right.
All right. So this is kind of interesting, which is when we do our classes, we talk about the homebuyer priority checklist, and looking and seeing the data and how that aligns with some of the stuff that we address in the class, I think is really interesting. It's showing that these things are real, and you should be considering these up front as a buyer. Don't wait until it's too late. In the book that we have, again, I mentioned that publications page. Check it out, The Smart Home Buyer. But we talk about this checklist, and the very first thing we discuss is set yourself up for success. Don't be in a rush. And so one of the first things we talk about is as highly important is 83% of buyers want to stay within budget
Right.
on their home, right?
Yeah, 100% should want to stay with it.
I was going to say that's probably the most important piece of the puzzle.
Well, and I
correct?
think if you're not in a rush, that you can accomplish that. and to really work on your priorities. I love number 2. It's number 2, air conditioning. It's
Yeah.
the second priority.
And this is
and
nationwide.
yeah.
This is nationwide.
It's nationwide, yeah. So I immediately think about like Arizona,
Right,
and Southern
right.
California, and Florida, and all those places. Yes,
Also high on the list would be a furnace
a furnace. Yes, I mean,
heating system.
Pretty important in
Yeah.
Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Actually, right now.
Also
oh,
happy negative first, or happy first negative.
Was it below 0 today?
I think it was
Wind
negative
chill.
2.
Wind
Yeah,
chill.
-1 wind chill.
Yeah.
Happy winter.
Wow.
And then neighborhood characteristics. And it's funny because we talk about the two most important things that most buyers, it is price and location.
Mhm.
That's what it comes down to. Things as far as size and condition, and even location. So location and neighborhood we treat a little differently, because location would be I want to be in the South Metro or something. Neighborhood would be the very specifics, walkability, all of that. That people will kind of generally go towards that neighborhood feel, and does it fit within their budget, and sacrifice in the other spots. So
Interesting.
yeah, 55% of buyers. You know what? With the last couple of seconds, typical home purchase: 3 beds, 2.2 baths, 2,000 square feet, 229 is the average in the United States. 49% rural, 29% urban. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll come back with some really interesting stats going back to that priority checklist. I think buyers will find really interesting and should always take into consideration. We'll be right back. The only thing I don't like about that clock is the position. I can't see it very well.
Can't see it.
No, because it's over here as I'm looking at you
Oh,
guys.
so you have to turn.
I'm
Got
gonna
it.
see if do I have an extra inch? No. All right. Well, it stays there, I guess.
Now, you might have an outlet hidden underneath that.
I don't
just
think I
kidding.
can unplug that. No, there's no outlet back there. I'll worry about it next time. All right, here we go. You ready?
Sure.
Let me just see. Do we have any questions? No. Not yet. Welcome back to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show on AM 950. Check us out online, brickstwincities.com. Any questions for us after the show, give us a call, 651-303-0019. Again, 651-303-0019. Today we're talking about U.S. housing trends that we're seeing out there. In the last segment, we covered that we're seeing that the average age is swinging a little bit older for homeowners.
What did you say the median nationally was?
Median was 43, and that's up from 41.
2. No, the median price.
Median price was $229.9.
And we are at 279.9 in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, $279. So, I think we talk about that affordability, and you look and you break it down by area. Plays a lot into it. 77% detached single-family homes. You know what? I should have looked up and seen what last year's numbers were on that piece. That would have been interesting to take a peek at. Here's some fun numbers. Average months for a home search, 4.5, which I think is a little long. Now I do talk about starting way early, get the process going, and so I love when the process maybe starts 6 months. So I'm curious where they're actually starting that from. First house
people
toured.
often start much earlier than prior to engaging with a lender or an agent. So that's probably accounted for in there.
This is the one that I love. And we just had a closing this morning where they were talking about the number of homes they looked at. And they go, wow, I feel like we looked at so few. They looked at 4.
They looked at 4,000.
Well, yeah,
Window
online.
shopping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
Right.
and that's what we talk about, with buyers, when we first meet with them. I mean, it's you don't need to go see a million in person anymore. It's not the MLS book days. You can
Right.
see this stuff online, start really figuring out. Average number of homes toured, 4.4.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think you've looked at 5 and that's not enough, it's fine. If you find the right one and you're doing the right things and doing that priority checklist. So kind of going back to that, talking about the budget piece. Now, first of all, the home buyer priority checklist, I know we've talked about this on the show before, but it's price, size, condition, location, neighborhood. What you want to do is you want to rate those 1 through 5. What's most important to you? If you're buying with a partner, have them do the same. And if you want to find a home successfully, make sure you're on the same page before you go out and go looking. Because if one of those things is off, you will find that point of contention in your search. And you'll just keep looking and looking and looking. So kind of looking at some of those stats, staying on budget.
Excuse me.
55% of buyers stayed on budget. 20% 26% spent slightly more, and 20% spent a little less. Who goes over budget? Without looking, any guesses?
What do you mean? Like what?
What generation?
Millennials?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, millennials, 29% go over budget. Gen X, 23. Boomers, 22.
But I mean, I would generally where millennials are in their life cycle, though, they've got a budget, but they're early on in their careers, so
Right.
Raises
That
and
changes.
job changes are anticipated, so they can tend to buy in with the anticipation of making more money.
Number one reason, 33% found a home they fell in love with above their price point. Here's
Have you ever fallen in love with a home?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fell in love with the one I bought for myself.
The one I came to? Just kidding.
Yes, the one that was really hot in the basement the night we played poker. Yes, that one.
It's a great house.
So I'm on that energy saving plan, and it happened to be the hottest day of the year, and we had 15 people over,
And I was stuck in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, and you were winning too, and you just sacrificed all your winnings just to get out of the hot basement.
Get out of here.
Trap me.
Okay, so let's see. The sacrifices people were willing to make to stay in budget didn't have the desired finishes, and so that's the most common sacrifice we see people make is the conditional one. And if you can just accept that early on, that it doesn't have to be perfect, especially for a first-time home buyer. And I like to use that word, first time. You're probably going to be buying another one, right?
In 5 to
Correct.
7 years.
5 to 7 years. So you learn about what you like and don't like, and you can make improvements over time. And so making that conditional sacrifice, that is a normal thing that people do. And then smaller than they initially planned is another one. A little further from...
just real quick on that too. People tend to make searches on square footage, and depending on the layout, an 1,800 square foot 3-level home can feel very different than an 1,800 square foot rambler on a slab.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
yeah.
So getting people comfortable with the idea that that layout relative to square footage is something to consider. So giving yourself a buffer, but people say absolutely house has to be this size, not understanding that if you get the right layout, smaller can actually feel bigger.
In the class, we talk about doing a exploratory set of showings, right? And all that is about, it's not about finding the home you love. It's about looking at a 3-level split, looking at a 2-story, looking at a 1-story, looking at a modified 2-story, looking at, all these different possibilities that might be in an area that you're looking.
Right.
I know I had a buyer this last spring who they wanted to be, and I'm using quotes, wanted to be in St. Louis Park, but they could not find the home they wanted in St. Louis Park because it didn't exist at their
What
price
were
point.
they like? Were they like 6'7" and wanted a story and a half?
Well, we looked at a lot of story and a halves.
Yeah.
I don't remember their height, but it was they wanted newer. They
Yeah.
right, so we ended up going to Bloomington and getting a 3-level split.
Sure.
And what was funny is the conversation about the priority checklist came up like 3 times. I'm like, "Hey guys, did you by chance do this checklist yet?" No. And then next time, "Hey guys, did you by chance?" And then the next time they go, "No," and we're still in St. Louis Park, and they finally called me up and they're like, "Hey, we did the checklist. We got 4 or 5 we want to look at in Bloomington now."
Right.
Went out, that set of showings, boom, found it
Found it.
right away. Right. And so it's super important to do that. Price, size, condition, location, neighborhood. We have a couple minutes left, and so I want to kind of circle back to the regrets. And we talk about that checklist. So the number one regret that buyers have is they didn't start the process early enough, right? And if you look at the book we have, first thing we say is set yourself up for success. Don't be in a rush. Start early. And the reason we say this is because this is the number one thing buyers feel pain about the process.
Right.
They wish they would have moved into their home faster, in a sense. So if you're thinking you're 2 to 3 years out, maybe start this process early and feel out all the options. I had somebody reach out to me a few weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, can we look at rent to own options?" And I'm just like, rent to own, I kind of treat it as like a big consumer scam for the most part because of the protections that people don't have in that versus at least a contract for deed. I did say, there is a company out there that has a program that we may want to look at, but I say, before we start this conversation about rent to own, why is it that you don't want? Well, we don't have enough of a down payment. I'm like, do you know you can buy a home for as little as $1,000 down? No, right? And so they're talking about being 2 to 3 years out to save up enough money, and they had no idea that they could do $1,000 down. And then with the Borrower Smart program that you can do for even less, we'll hit that on the after show here. They wish they would have chosen a different home. That's number 3, chosen a different community, and would have used different online resources. What's funny is if you go back to number 1, if you start early, you can avoid all the other ones. Right? Set yourself up for success. Don't be in a rush.
Can't say that enough.
Right? And so, if you want any of these trends, just type in just Zillow, Consumer Housing Trends 2019. There's a whole bunch more stats on there we didn't cover today. For those watching on Facebook Live, stick around for the after show. Anything else you guys want to hit in the last 22 seconds? No?
Don't be in a rush.
Don't be in a rush. Check out our show next week. Consumer Housing Trends Sellers will be back next week.
Radio show after hours coming up.
I need to. Well, yeah, Chad, you were. The Borrower Smart program. What a great option. Do you know about this? Borrower Smart?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, looking at these stats is pretty neat because, so the income, if you're looking, greater than 50,000, 31% of the people in the market earn greater than 50,000. With that income, less than 50,000. With that income, we offer a program called Borrower Smart, and you get an additional $2,500.
And that's through
Freddie Mac,
and they only picked a few banks to do it.
Yeah, we're the one of 2 lenders in the state of Minnesota that offer it, but it's free money. It's actually a grant.
Okay.
So whether you want it or not, I'm going to give it to you if you fall in these income buckets.
Right. Is it a forgivable grant, like over a time period, like 5 years or?
Well, you don't. It's not even it's not a lien on the title.
Okay.
It's just basically a credit on the closing disclosure.
Okay.
So
if you turn around and sell 6 months in, do you have to repay any? Oh, wow.
It won't even be noticed.
Okay.
So these are programs, and we talk about affordability, and I think where we talk about first-time home buyers, it's a huge percentage. 45% of the buyers in the market are first-time home buyers.
Right.
They're coming out of college, like we've mentioned, student loan debt. They don't have a ton of money. They're looking for that career, their first career. They're not making a lot of money, but they want to buy a house, and they should. they should be able to buy a house. So we have options out there, and I think when we talk about starting too, not starting too early, this is where you want to talk to your lender, your real estate professional, and learn about these options because they're out there, and you got to take advantage of them. So
Right. Well, and just because you start the process doesn't mean you have to buy something. So go
Correct.
talk to a lender, go talk to a realtor.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
get a
there's
sense for
this
what
is
your
not
options
costing
are.
you money.
Right.
No, this is free. I mean, I don't charge any money for a meeting with a client. And I don't care if it's at 8:00 at night, but that's just me. But I call it
I
window
charge
shopping.
$10,000 an hour.
That's
No,
awesome.
Wow,
Jeez.
my rates are going to go up.
I'm invoicing you for this radio show,
I
Kirk.
was gonna say, Kurt, you're gonna
That's
write
all
a
right.
pretty
We
healthy check.
invoice the company for the radio show. One thing I want to I didn't touch on in the regular show is that the younger generations are more likely to have at least one regret. So the Gen Z buyers, 82% of them had a regret in buying. The millennials, 70% of them had at least one regret when buying. And we talked about those regrets. I think part of it is as you buy more homes, you start to learn these things about this process.
Right.
But one of the reasons we put this book out there, the Smart Home Buyer, not to be a sales pitch. It's to help, a buyer with this process. And, we have real estate agents who have done, 50 or 100 transactions. They read this book and say, I learned something. They're picking up something from it. And the reason being is a whole bunch of people collaborated to really pick up these pain points in the process and get rid of them. And what's funny is I can tell if I've given it to a buyer and they haven't read it.
Right.
Because then their complaint would have been addressed had they read it, right? Like, oh, well, why didn't I know about it? Well, you actually talked about that
Right.
early on.
Well, and there is
So-
if you try and account for the actual cost of a regret, if you buy a house that you didn't want to buy and you got to sell it in 2 years.
Bought in the wrong community.
that
That's
is-
expensive.
It's an expensive education. So
Yeah.
read the book, spend a couple hours on that. Otherwise, it could end up costing you
Tens of thousands.
$10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put a link to the book again in this post. So, check it out. It's there to help people. So, and it's free. So,
I always say it's not like buying a car. You can't trade it in, a year down the road and you figure out it's not for you.
Right.
I mean, you can, but you better be ready to take a loss.
Yeah.
I did that. I was Mr. Car hopping from the time I turned 16 till 21. I had 5 different cars. It does actually become costly after a while.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
But with houses, it's way more costly.
Well, and you can offset it in an appreciating market.
Yes.
Right. But
Right.
if you get into a flat market, just the cost of selling, it can be 5-7%. So accounting for that, in an appreciating market, you can hedge on it a little bit, but markets are fluid and they're not going to go
Right.
up at 5-7% forever.
Exactly.
No,
if
and
you
we're
can make
s-
that better decision on the front end, it'll save you just a ton of money.
And we're
Right.
we're seeing those trend lines of flattening markets. I mean, so we talked about the above 500,000 market in the Twin Cities. It's pretty just steady. It's not doing much. Acreage, at least south of the cities, it's appreciating, but not at the same pace it was a couple
Starting to
years
level
ago.
out.
So, minimize your mistakes and maximize your equity in a sense, right?
Right.
Maximize your happiness on that.
There's one thing I want to point out too, and this is pretty eye-opening. And I deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, but a lot of people that are out there teeter-tottering on should I rent or should I buy? Start the process.
Starting the process
Start
sooner.
talking to someone, because here's something that stood out to me. 34% of buyers out there use a gift or some type of loan from a friend or family member to help them purchase a home. It's huge. A lot of first-time home buyers or repeat buyers that I deal with, they don't realize they have that option.
Well, and I think a lot of people, a lot of parents who are homeowners, they know the pain of renting and what it costs because they experienced it at some
Right.
point. And so, a lot of times, a relative, family member, they're going to be open to that if you discuss that.
They're going to want to help.
They're going to want to help.
sure.
Exactly. All right. You guys got anything else? All right. Thanks for sticking around for the after show. We'll be back next week. Trends, sellers. We're going to hit that.